Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with us, and welcome back. And thank you, Abir Hussein and Rasha Abdul Hamid, for this report. Back here in the studio with Dr. Amr Saleh, Professor of Economics and former World Bank advisor. Dr. Saleh, the meetings were held under the theme Sustainable Growth in a Challenging World.
Well, let me say that I'm happy that the international donors and financial institutions are nowadays targeting climate change and sustainable development. This is a very important issue. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, climate change and environmental problems were not on the agenda. Now we see that most of the, and I'm one of the experts that have worked with international donors. I'm happy because 20 years ago when we used to work with international, or 30 years ago when we used to work with international donors, we didn't see these issues on the agenda of the donors. But nowadays,
yes,
with the target of reaching zero emissions by 2050, and with the investment that have growth, with the growth of the investments in the green economy that have reached today around $1.1 trillion. You know, China is putting around $500 billion. The U.S. is putting around $150 billion. This is a big, enormous investments. We have seen a growth of 22% of the green economy last year, 22%, which is a very important rate of growth. So finally, since 1971, since the famous the UN conference on environment, sustainable development, you know that the word sustainable development has appeared in 1986, if I'm not mistaken, 86. But before, in 1971, we've seen the UN talking about, they were very shy, talking about climate change and sustainable development. So nowadays, I'm really happy that that we see financial institution donors, especially donors that are working on investment and private sector, involved private sector participation, are dealing with the climate change. One of the institutions is the Asian Bank. And the Asian Bank is traditionally an institution that works to promote investments and to promote infrastructure. So I'm really happy that these institutions that are working to promote or investing on infrastructure, heavy infrastructure, are now talking about climate change and sustainable development.
Indeed, we'll get to that point, Dr. Saleh. Of course, His Excellency the President was there at the inauguration of the meetings, and the head of the AIIB, Mr. Jean Lequins, had said that Egypt witnessed a big leap in the growth of infrastructure under President Sisi, and the President noted that Egypt has given a model for success in infrastructure development, that it's not only about planning, but it's about planning and implementation. It's not just planning, it's not just, implementation is a big part of it. You were mentioning the climate change topic, and indeed the Finance Minister, Dr. Mait, had stressed that the meetings aim to finance green initiatives and substantial projects in renewables, sustainable transportation, communication, internet infrastructure, water resources, and so on. So indeed, the climate element was very high on the agenda of the meetings, and Egypt pushed for that.
Sure. Why do we need to invest in green economy? Why do we need to invest in climate change? Because simply there is something that is called the cost of environmental degradation. And the climate change and environmental problems are causing enormous problems, economic problems, social problems, and sometimes political problems. And this has a cost. We've seen the the last event, very tragic events in Libya, in Marrakesh,
Morocco, of course, Algeria, the wildfires,
in Greece, Spain. So we've seen
the wildfires, the earthquakes,
Syria,
the floods,
Turkey. We've seen very tragic.
We have seen, and we are seeing,
and we're seeing,
and it's continuing.
Exactly. So in economics, in environmental economics, these events, and even the pollution, by the way, even the pollution that we see in the streets, or we feel sometimes that there's some kind of pollution, these kind of pollutions are very harmful on human being and
on health.
On health. I'm very glad that you talked about health, because the health problems are causing or bringing a certain cost. So there's a cost of remediation, there's cost of health problem. So you need to invest.
There is a cost of lives.
There's a cost of life. You're losing people. So all these kinds of costs, if you calculate all these kinds of costs, so you have costs coming from health problems, coming from land degradation, soil degradation, water pollution, air pollution,
which affects food,
which affects agriculture, which affects the growth of our children, and these children are as kind of investments. So if you calculate all these kinds of costs, you have a number that is called the total cost of environmental degradation.
And we here in the region are paying, and developing countries in general are paying the price of what developed countries are.
Let me give you a number. Some countries, some Arab countries and some less developing countries are losing 6%, 7% of its GDP. 7%, which means that if your income is $100, that you're losing $7, which is a big amount for less developing countries. African countries are losing 15% of their GDP because of climate change. The US is losing only 2%. The numbers are very important, by the way. The US is losing 2%. The EU is losing 1%. China, which is responsible with India of the gas emissions, is losing 3%. So
we can say that climate change for many developing countries is actually an issue of national security.
Exactly. It's a political issue. It's a social issue. It's much more like an economic issue. And this is very important and very critical, especially for the countries that needs money for economic development. We need money for economic development. We need money for infrastructure. We need money for education. We need money for health. We need money for construction. And at the time that you need money and you need investments, you're losing the investment, you're losing a financial investment, and you're losing people. And so you're losing your capabilities, you're losing the skills. So imagine these things are very crucial for less developing countries. As I was saying, Africa is losing 15% of GDP. That's why President Fattah al-Sisi have asked the international donors to increase their portfolio regarding the climate change. And I'm very happy because
this is what happened in COP27. Exactly. It was something. It was a major step in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Talking about COP27, you've seen that there was a fight between the country, the members regarding environmental degradation and regarding the financing environmental degradation. And
reparations, the developing countries.
The remediation cost. Who's going to pay the cost? And we've seen that Egypt has done lots of effort, undertaken lots of efforts in order to get a reasonable and acceptable final communique during the COP27 that is accepted by all the countries. During the last minute, even during the last minutes, the final communique was not yet prepared, and the countries didn't agree about the final communique. So the problem of the environment is a crucial environment. As I said, we are hoping to reach zero emission by 2050, and this is going to cost and needs lots of investments. As I've said, investment now have reached 1.1 billion. trillion dollars. But this number today, with an increase last year of 22%,
is not enough.
It's not enough. So that's why President Fattah al-Sisi have asked for more portfolios, for more investments on climate change, especially by donors. And I think that President Fattah al-Sisi have requested, and this is very important, by the way, have requested a new model for financing and a new flexible model to finance environmental problems in less developing countries.
Right. Dr. Saleh, the significance of holding this Asian meeting in Egypt. I mean, Egypt is the heart of the world, really. Africa, Asia, the Mediterranean,
it's
Europe.
the mother of the world.
Yeah, and the center of the world.
Yeah.
So the significance and the timing and the fact that, you know, Egypt, by joining this group, could benefit from the soft loans or the easy loans from investments. Already, of course, there are a lot of Asian investments in Egypt.
Arab countries also.
The Arab Asian
we need
countries.
to talk about UAE also and the Gulf countries. Let me come back to your question. The significance, you know, Egypt have hosted, Sharm el-Sheikh have hosted the COP27, right? And the conference of the Asian Bank was done in Sharm el-Sheikh. And this is a message, by the way. This is a message that the bank would like to be invited or to come to the place where the last COP, one of the big conferences on environment, have been held. This is number one. So this is a continuation. This is a message from the bank that we're here in the same place where the COP27 was held.
Beautiful.
Months ago.
And so since you mentioned the UAE, I mean, the UAE will host COP28.
Exactly, next year. So this is number one, coming to your question. Number one, the second message is that a country like Egypt that have done a lot and that invested a lot. Egypt was one of the countries that had previously, and I have to put this between brackets, previously a bad record in environment. Egypt now is a model. It's a success story. It's one of the countries that is investing a lot on a green environment. President Fattah al-Sisi have launched the Egypt strategy on green environment. And what's really nice, you're talking about the COP28, we've seen the joint cooperation between
This is His Excellency in the UAE.
Yes. Yeah. We've seen the investments and the cooperation between the UAE, President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, that was present in the COP27.
Yes.
And at that time, the UAE have decided to put and to invest $10 billion with Egypt in green environment and green hydrogen. And this is number one. The UAE is one of the models, we have to say about that.
Yes.
Dubai is one of the models. By the way, Dubai is going to hold an environmental green energy conference before the COP28. And I think Dubai now is one of the biggest areas, I'm not going to say country, but Dubai is part of the UAE. But Dubai and the UAE is a real model of transforming its economy and investing on green.
It is a model. And I think the UAE is the biggest investor in Egypt in climate and green projects?
Well, the UAE is the biggest investor in Egypt
Point final.
Yeah, point final. But UAE is investing a lot with Egypt. The UAE is a model. I'm not going to talk about Masdar. I'm not going to talk about Dubai Gas and Electricity, which is DEWA. DEWA is a big institution in terms of transformation in energy. Tourism industry is really changing in the UAE. Masdar, as I have said. And let me tell you that the UAE and Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid is one of the champions that have really pushed Dubai and its institution to transform its energy and consumption towards green economy. And that's why the model of the UAE and the cooperation with Egypt in this area
is a model on itself.
Yeah.
The cooperation.
I'm not going to say that because people were saying that, UAE is going to finance a green project in Egypt. But let me tell you that now the UAE and Dubai, I do think that Dubai is one of the champions in achieving sustainable development and green energy and zero emissions. UAE has launched recently its strategy on the green environment and green energy and green investments. And this is really remarkable because all the institutions in the UAE, and especially in Dubai, are really achieving the zero emissions, especially, as I said, DEWA, the electricity of Dubai, and Masdar in Abu Dhabi that really became a model of. By the way, the UAE is also investing in electric vehicles.
Right.
That is one of the big and most important domains for the futures. The electric vehicle, electric transportation is one of the big areas of sustainable development.
And it should have a big market in Egypt. I mean, soon.
Sure.
Indeed, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank meetings concluded on Tuesday with a call on expanding public-private partnership in green projects and in climate change issues.
Thank you for that. To end with that, Egypt has announced its strategic plan to bring the private sector to invest with the government and to invest in government entities, in public entities. Now it's opening its market and its entities to the private sector, and I think this is one of the areas where the private sector have got a very important chance and a big chance to invest in the Egyptian economy, especially in green environment. They're investing in tourism, in heavy industry. But I think this is one of the important areas where the private sector could be a part of the sustainable development process in Egypt.
Indeed, Dr. Saleh, I'm just ending by this note that at the conclusion of the 8th annual meetings of the AIIB here in Egypt, there was a ceremony where Egypt handed over to Uzbekistan the host of the next, the 9th annual meetings of the AIIB in Samarkand in 2024. Sure. Dear viewers, that's all for this edition. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's been informative. Thank you very much, Dr. Amr Saleh, a professor of economics and former World Bank advisor. Thank you, sir. Thank you for watching us, dear viewers. Next week, same time, inshallah, a new episode. Until then, have all the best and goodbye.